The Beatles' Help wasn't just a fun summer hit. It was a cry for help that changed pop music forever. On August 6, 1965, the Fab Four released an album that sounded carefree and fun. But hidden behind that upbeat rhythm was something much deeper, a reflection of the intense pressures they were facing. Today, we'll explore why Help became the album that set the Beatles on an entirely new path. By 1965, the Beatles were everywhere. They weren't just famous, they were the most recognizable people on the planet. They were playing sold-out stadiums, being mobbed at airports, and dealing with fans who camped outside their hotels. Beatlemania was at its absolute peak, with newspapers worldwide covering their every move. They couldn't go anywhere without being surrounded by screaming crowds. Privacy was gone, and the non-stop attention became overwhelming. The band had just completed a whirlwind of touring across Europe, North America, and Australia. They were cranking out 2 albums a year, appearing on countless TV shows, and now filming their second movie, all within a relentless schedule. The pressure was immense. Endless interviews, press conferences, and concerts left them exhausted. Lennon later revealed that writing Help came from a place of frustration and exhaustion. He felt trapped by fame, stripped of privacy, and longed for some sense of normal life again. He even said years later that he wished they had recorded Help more slowly as a genuine ballad, reflecting the sadness he was feeling at the time. Ironically, this intense pressure would end up sparking some of their boldest creative breakthroughs. The Beatles' Help wasn't just an album, it was also a film. Released on July 29, 1965, the movie was a chaotic, slapstick comedy directed by Richard Lester. While the film became a fan favorite, its production was far from glamorous. The Beatles spent weeks on location, filming in places like the Bahamas and Austria. They juggled movie shoots with their packed touring schedule, and exhaustion began to set in. John, Paul, George, and Ringo often joked about forgetting their lines or being too tired to care. They were filming all day, then rushing back to London to record new songs at night. Ironically, this stressful environment forced them to write quickly and trust their instincts, leading to a rawer, more experimental sound. Some insiders have even speculated that the fatigue and chaotic filming schedule pushed Lennon and McCartney to rely more on each other's creative sparks, resulting in songs that felt fresh and urgent. Rumor has it the strain caused creative disagreements within the band. Lennon was increasingly interested in more serious themes, while McCartney wanted to maintain the lighthearted charm that had made them famous. These early creative riffs foreshadowed the artistic differences that would define their later years. Take Ticket to Ride. At first listen, it might sound like just another Beatles hit, but Lennon himself once called it one of the first heavy metal songs. The track had a distinctly heavier rhythm, a chugging guitar part, and Ringo's inventive drum pattern that emphasized toms rather than traditional rock beats. Compared to their early singles like She Loves You, this song felt darker and weightier, breaking away from pure pop. It was unlike anything else on the charts at the time, signaling that rock music itself was about to evolve. Many rock historians now credit Ticket to Ride as one of the first steps toward the heavier, guitar-driven music that would dominate the late 60s and 70s. Without realizing it, the Beatles had already begun influencing bands that would later shape hard rock and heavy metal. Help!
I need somebody help, not just anybody.
May sound like an upbeat track, but its lyrics are startlingly raw. Lennon admitted he wrote it during one of the lowest points in his life. What makes the song remarkable is its contrast, a joyful melody paired with honest lyrics about fear and loss of control. At a time when pop songs were often about simple love stories, Lennon was openly expressing personal struggles. This quiet vulnerability marked a turning point for the band. It showed audiences that the Beatles were no longer just teen idols. They were artists willing to be authentic about their lives and emotions. Years later, Lennon openly reflected on Help in interviews, calling it one of his most honest songs. He said that at the height of Beatlemania, he was overweight, insecure, and deeply unhappy. He admitted he wished the band had slowed the song down and recorded it as a true ballad, capturing the sadness he felt inside.
At the time, I do whatever I feel is right. Although I haven't been particularly happy personally, for quite a long time with the situation.
Knowing this today gives the song an even deeper meaning. It was a rare moment when Lennon exposed how fame was breaking him down. Yesterday is one of the most iconic Beatles songs of all time. But what made it revolutionary? For starters, it was the first time the band used a string quartet in a pop song. McCartney's ballad was unlike anything they had done before. Instead of guitars and drums, he added classical instrumentation, giving the song a timeless, haunting quality. According to McCartney, the melody famously came to him in a dream. He originally called it "Scrambled Eggs" until proper lyrics were written. This approach was groundbreaking in 1965. Most pop acts stuck to safe, radio-friendly sounds. Yet McCartney wrote something deeply personal, a bittersweet reflection on lost love, unlike anything fans expected from a Beatles record. Interestingly, even though McCartney wrote "Yesterday" entirely by himself, it was still credited as Lennon-McCartney due to the band's early agreement to share credit on all their songs. Years later, McCartney admitted he sometimes felt frustrated that people assumed Lennon co-wrote it, simply because of the shared credit. At the time of Help, the tension stayed private, but it foreshadowed the creative conflicts that would eventually grow between them. It went on to become one of the most covered songs in history, but controversy followed. The US version of Help left Yesterday out entirely, saving it for a later release, Yesterday and Today, 1966. Fans were disappointed, and some speculate that McCartney was quietly frustrated by Capitol Records' decision. It raised questions about whether record label politics were already interfering with the band's artistic vision. There were actually two versions of Help, and their differences caused an uproar. The UK version featured the full set of Beatles tracks, including Ticket to Ride and Yesterday. But the US version, released by Capitol Records, replaced several songs with instrumental pieces from the film and excluded Yesterday altogether. Many American fans felt cheated, and the band's frustration with Capitol Records grew stronger. Some speculate this was part of a larger effort to shape the Beatles' image in the US market. One more reason, tensions between the band and the label kept rising. Look at the UK cover of Help. The band holds flags in positions resembling maritime semaphore, a flag signaling system. Yet the positions don't actually spell help. Designers later admitted the pose was chosen simply because it looked better in photos. Still, fans obsessed over every detail. Some tied the flag positions to the infamous "Paul is dead" rumor, claiming they were hidden clues about McCartney's supposed death and replacement. This theory really took off in 1969, when college students pieced together supposed clues from album covers and song lyrics. Even though the rumor was false, it became one of the most famous conspiracy theories in music history. While this has always been speculation, it became one of many strange theories that grew around the Beatles in the late 60s. Even a simple album cover could feed decades of mystery. And while these theories fueled fan fascination, the real story was always in the music itself, which was already pointing toward a daring new chapter. Help marked the start of a huge artistic shift. Songs like Ticket to Ride hinted at heavier rock influences, while tracks such as Yesterday and Help showed a new emotional depth. This was the point where the Beatles began evolving from pop idols into serious artists. That transition would fully blossom on Rubber Soul just months later, and eventually lead to groundbreaking albums like Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Many see Help as the true end of Beatlemania, the moment the band outgrew its image as mere pop stars. Looking back, the album became far more than a summer release. It was a bold artistic shift that helped shape the future of rock music. The Beatles' willingness to experiment, challenge pop conventions, and open up emotionally changed what audiences expected from their idols. Decades later, its influence is still felt in nearly every corner of popular music. Now I want to hear from you. What's the most underrated track on Help? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this dive into Beatles history, make sure to subscribe for more stories where the music lives on.